right, everybody. Hello and welcome to episode 0 of UtahPreneur. I think that's what we're going to call it. That's what we're starting out calling it. And hopefully that's the name 10 years from now, but who knows? As I do with everything, I'm just shipping it. And this is episode 0, which is not as exciting as every other episode after it. But if for some reason you're curious about my story and you just want to, see who is this guy doing the interviews, that's what this would be for. If that doesn't interest you at all, just skip, listen to our other guests because they're going to be much more exciting than I am. But if you're interested in why I'm starting UtahPreneur, the path to getting here, this could be interesting to you, especially if you're interested in online business specifically. And from my very first day on this earth, I had a business owner as a parent, which was my mom. And she ran and still runs a company called Swim Kids, which is a business that teaches little kids, usually between the ages of 6 months and 10 years of age, how to swim. And they're actually going to be the first episode. So if you're listening to this one and you look at the next episode, it will be with my mom and the story of how Swim Kids got started. So that's kind of fun. But my mom, from as soon as I could remember, was giving me a masterclass on customer experience inside of a business. So when I had a lemonade stand, she would say, look, every lemonade stand I go to, warm, sometimes there's bugs in the lemonade. The kids are really disorganized. It takes a long time. And if you're going to run a lemonade stand, you're going to do it properly. So we're going to make sure you have enough ice. We're going to make sure you have enough lemonade mix so the lemonade actually tastes good. And if for some reason a bug or a fly or something else gets into the lemonade as you're handing it to the person, then you just go ahead and dump that out and you get them another one. Okay. Make sure you fill the cup up all the way. Make sure you look people in the eye and say thank you, tell them what the price is confidently, etc. And you will not believe how much this stuck with me. Even in my first business, which I ran for about 4 years before I sold it, I was obsessed with the customer experience, and almost to a detriment where I got really burnt out and worried and just was constantly focusing on the minute details of how we could help our customers have a better experience, which obviously is a great thing to focus on, but not when it comes to the detriment of your mental and physical health. But I am very, very grateful for everything my mom taught me, and it helped me know what were the most important things to be focusing on inside of a lemonade stand. And that, of course, translated when I started my next business. In addition to that, I always saw and heard my mom walking around on the phone with customers. And sometimes when something went wrong, she had to explain and listen to this person. She would always say, oh, I'm reading this book and I learned this acronym for customer service or something similar to this, just an example that comes to mind. And it's called LAST. So first we listen, then we apologize, then we solve it, and then we thank them for bringing it to our attention or for whatever they need to be thanked for. So you could see this really made an impression on me as a young 10-year-old kid learning all of these things. And it also instilled a love of entrepreneurship, small business, and just in general wanting to kind of be the captain of my own ship and not have to be beholden to a boss. I've always kind of had a problem with authority. So fast forward a couple years, I'm working in the family business. I started doing small things around age 10, I would say, maybe like helping file papers or shred papers, things like that. And then I actually started teaching swimming as a summer job around 14 years old. So my mom would come with me, we would teach together, spend some time together, have lunch, and she'd coach me and kind of mentor me on what I was doing right and wrong, both from a curriculum perspective. So how fast are we helping this child learn how to swim so that they can be safe, but also from a business perspective. So, hey, are you looking the parents in the eyes? Are you being communicative about how their child is progressing? Are you trying to help the child learn some new things and have fun so that the parent stays invested in wanting to come back to swimming lessons, which I don't think I wrapped my head around at that point, around retention and lifetime value of customers, etc. But all of this stuff, again, was another masterclass in, hey, here's how to help people have the right experience in your business, which of course helped me down the line. So fast forward, this was like my only high school job, working for my parents in the family business, which, has its pros and cons. The con being that I've never actually worked for anybody else, truly, other than family, which some say doesn't count. And I would tend to agree with them. My senior year of high school, I went to Skyline High School in Utah. If any Eagles listening, or maybe people in that area know the high school, I started a blog. I was trying to make money blogging, and it took me about 2 months to give up and to run into some hurdles that I felt like were insurmountable and just kind of stop what was going on with the blog. Totally fine, because just a few months later, I left for 2 years to do door-to-door sales. Now, for anyone that heard that 2-year time frame, I'm sure you're thinking, oh, was this really door-to-door sales, or was this a Mormon mission? And it was a Mormon mission. I was in Washington, D.C. I learned Spanish. Todavía hablo español de vez en cuando. And since then, I have left the LDS Church for various reasons that are not relevant to today's podcast. But if we ever meet in person, I'm totally happy to talk to you about that and have a great discussion about that, because I just wish there was more openness around that in general in the state. So while I look back on my experience serving a mission, I now have very mixed feelings about the message that I was promoting and the way that it was being promoted. But one thing that I will forever take with me from that experience is the masterclass in sales and entrepreneurial efficiency that being a Mormon missionary gives you. So small example. So of course your goal as a missionary is to baptize as many people into the LDS church as possible during your 2-year or 18-month stint. And what I started to realize is, hey, we're never going to actually get people who want to be baptized or are even able to get baptized if we can't get them to come to church first. So that became my very first elevator pitch or question that I would ask people, like, hey, do you want to come to church with us on Sunday? And you could tell within 2 to 3 seconds whether or not that person was serious about coming with you, if they had time on Sundays, if they had the desire to come. And it just made life so much easier because every week we would have maybe, let's say 5, 6, 7, 8. One week I think we had 12 people come to church with us. And once they come once, they can decide if they like it. They can keep meeting with us, keep coming to church, meet other members of the church, etc. And that increases their likelihood of being baptized. So oddly enough, this principle really applies to entrepreneurship in that when I started my next business, which I'll get to in just a second, I was hyper focused on how can I find the people who are ready to buy now? And what's that litmus test, similar to asking people to come to church, that helps me qualify them, so to speak, and ensures that I don't waste time talking to prospects, leads, potential customers that aren't actually going to convert and weren't serious in the first place. And that principle that I learned being a missionary definitely accelerated my progress with my next business. The other really important thing I learned as a missionary is to work hard and see how much that doesn't work. I was the kind of person to pound the pavement for 10, 12, 16 hours a day and not take breaks for meals and never take naps and be in and out of meals with members of the church very quickly, etc. I was just a hard worker. I wanted to be there. I wanted to do the right thing. And I did that for about 16 months where I just head down was working as hard as I could. And at one point I looked up and I was like, you know what? This isn't actually working. I'm not actually getting the results that I want, and kind of reevaluated that and learned to work smart. And that's when I started asking people, hey, do you want to come to church, as the first thing? And in addition, just not running around trying to talk to absolutely every single person and coming off, I'm sure, very overbearing and kind of excitable and overworked at times to people, instead being a little bit more calm, collected, and trying to focus on quality over quantity. And this, of course, was a massive help in starting my next business. Instead of putting my nose to the grindstone, which I still did to some respects, I tried as much as possible to focus on the smart thing instead of just doing the hard things. So once I got home from my mission, that's when my career, at least earning money career, started. And I went back to work for the family business that summer. I was teaching swimming, was also working in the office as kind of an appointment setter, if you will, answering the phone, answering questions, putting people on the schedule, etc. And during the summer, my brother, who was CEO at the time, was really pushing for a new location to be built that fall. And he decided that I was the person that was going to help with the execution of his marketing strategy for that. So for the first time ever, I was dipping my toes into marketing, which I was always interested in. I had done the Academy of Finance, which has some marketing classes, accounting classes, business classes that are concurrent enrollment at Salt Lake Community College. I had done that in high school and always found marketing quite interesting. So my brother said, look, there's probably 3 things we should be focusing on, maybe some local signs and online ads. And so I got to work on doing all 3 of those things. I kind of transitioned into this role as I started school that fall at BYU. And this was my part-time job while I was at school. So I was figuring out how to set up digital billboards. I was putting up signs. I was putting flyers in daycares. I knocked doors at one point in the area where the new location was going up, which was Pleasant Grove. And through all of that, I also discovered social media advertising, where I would run ads. I could see exactly how many ads those people were reaching. I could see how many clicks, how many leads, etc. we were generating from them. And through this process, I realized, wow, this is pretty measurable, pretty trackable. It's the thing I seem to be the best at. And we slowly kind of phased everything else out. And I just became the paid social media strategist and executioner, if you want to call that. Executor is probably a better word, for the strategy that my brother and the other, executive members of the swim school were laying out. So as I was learning this, I was also in school and I was just bored out of my mind. There were some interesting classes, but I felt there was a lot of busy work and I could not for the life of me figure out what major I should pick. Probably spent more time looking on the BYU list of majors and list of required courses for those majors than I actually did doing homework, which, maybe is telling why I ended up where I am. But eventually I decided, you know what, I'm learning so much more from work. College just seems to be a lot of running around, wasting time. And I realized in a moment of epiphany one day, walking back from a class in the morning, that I didn't actually need a formal university education to get where I wanted to go in life and to do what I wanted to do. So I finished my second semester at BYU and I decided, you know what, I'm going to take these skills that I've learned on how to run Facebook and Instagram ads, was the only ones I had run at that time, and I'm going to start an agency. And maybe I'll go more into depth about how this period went in a future episode at some point. But basically what happened is I started reaching out to orthodontists after I had a conversation with a friend one night that said, hey, you should try marketing for orthodontists. They always need new patients because they just treat them and then they need the next set of them to come in, and they have relatively high lifetime value and they tend to have money to spend on marketing. So I figured good enough for me, may as well reach out. So I started doing some market research, talking to some friends of friends that were orthodontists, calling in, just saying, hey, can I ask you a few questions? And one of those people that I reached out to, actually the very first one, ended up becoming a client of mine, and they're actually still a client today, which is pretty cool, almost 5.5 years later at the time of recording this episode. And so I started running ads for them. They really liked the results. And then I was able to leverage the experience that I had with them to then get my next client, which was in Florida, and my third client after that, which was also in Florida. So I had one in Utah and two in Florida. I didn't fly out to the people in Florida. I just managed everything remotely, met them remotely, and I was charging around $1,000 per month for my services at this time. And in addition to that, these businesses were spending on ads. As that summer progressed after my second semester at college, I was able to close a few more orthodontists. I think I ended up the summer with like 6. And then I continued to bring on about 1, 2, 3, 4 orthodontists into my marketing agency for the next 3 years. During that time, I also partnered up with somebody. I had a lot of employees come in and out. And by a lot, I mean maybe 20 total people who worked for me, but a core group of about 6 to 8 employees towards the end of me working at the agency. After about 3 years of running the agency, I had gotten married, and the agency was awesome during my dating period. It was a nice, stable thing. It made me look cool because I had started my own thing. Part of why my wife wanted to date me in the first place. And once we got through with the wedding and everything, I realized, you know what, I think the next chapter of my career needs to be something different. I'm a little bit burned out. Agencies can be brutal, as many people know. And let's be real, I made a lot of mistakes as I was building this agency. Hired the wrong people, charged the wrong amounts, focused on the wrong things, got frustrated too quickly or too fast, and worked too many hours. But the benefit of making a lot of mistakes is you know exactly what not to do. And as you make a lot of those mistakes, you also learn what to do. So at our peak, we had around 40 to 50 orthodontists that we were running ads for. And throughout this process, as I kind of became more well-known in the agency space, I had people reaching out for consulting help, and I would do a little bit of that on the side. And I had also started making YouTube videos about how to run an agency because I found that I enjoyed it. People were asking for it, and it made a little bit of extra money through the consulting and the ad revenue on YouTube. So I knew exactly what I wanted to do once I transitioned out of the agency. It was just a matter of how that was going to go down. Was I going to buy my business partner out? Was I going to get bought out? I reached out to a mentor of mine I had at the time. I said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I want to transition out. What would you suggest? And he said, I was actually talking to some friends last week and they were thinking about buying your company. And I was completely blown away. I had no idea anybody would want to buy what I had built that literally started as a dorm room operation. It didn't seem sophisticated enough to be bought, but here I was staring at this message and I said, for sure, let's talk to them. So we went through a process, took about 9 months from initial discovery to actually closing the deal. And at February 1st of 2023, I sold my marketing agency. Now, this is the part where I can sort of smooth over and leave it quite ambiguous how much I made from that and make you think perhaps that I'm much more successful than I actually am. The valuation of the agency when we sold it was $500,000. That was a little bit higher valuation than I think we would have gotten just on the open market, but this was a strategic buy from a very, very similar business that was just, let's say, 5 to 10 times our size. So honestly, I think we got one of the best deals we could have gotten. I did not receive $500,000 in cash. I had a business partner that I was 50-50 with, and I negotiated different terms at the end of the due diligence period to not stay on long-term at their agency, which was sort of the whole idea of sort of an acqui-hire. I decided that I didn't want to go that direction, and so my payout was decreased. You can do the math. It wasn't that life-changing amount of money, but I was very, very excited that I got to go full-time, kind of be unchained from having a business partner, which can feel amazing at times and restricting at times, as anyone that has a partner knows. It's kind of like a marriage. So I was very happy with how everything turned out. Got a decent payday, and I was able to spend all my time now on what I wanted to be doing, which was consulting, coaching, making YouTube videos, course, all of that online guru consulting stuff. So about a month after I sold my business, my wife ran screaming into our bedroom at 7 a.m. and saying, I'm pregnant. She's definitely not the type of person to, wrap the test up and give it to you in a cute way. She was shocked. I was shocked. Tons of feelings were going on, especially with kind of the uncertainty of the new venture, even though I was already making money from it. We didn't know how well it would go. And I decided, I want to be as available as possible once this baby is here. So I'm going to put my head down, work as hard as I can for the next 6 to 9 months so that when the baby does come, we're ready. I can help as much as possible. So that's what I did. I started making a lot of videos. I started doing a lot of consulting, coaching. I created a comprehensive course on everything I knew about running an agency, sold about $200,000 worth of that course. And in addition to that, other coaching programs and affiliate marketing. If you don't know what affiliate marketing is, I just refer people to softwares, other coaching programs or products or something, and they just give me a cut of that. So it's a really good model where nobody has to pay any extra, but the person who has referred to the product gets compensated for referring people instead of just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. Where this can become particularly lucrative is in software, where somebody signs up once and you get paid for years or even forever, which is how some companies have their affiliate programs set up. And the particular company that I kind of hitched my wagon to and I had been using every day for the last 4 years, absolutely loved and was really poised for growth. It's called High Level. You can look it up. My main YouTube channel has a ton of videos on it. And my income with High Level really started to take off. The affiliate marketing that I never dreamed would go over a few thousand a month, I was suddenly making me upwards of $10,000 and then $20,000 and then $50,000 a month just from affiliate marketing. And all of this kind of started to happen right around when my son was born, which was in December of 2023. So I had this pretty consistent income from affiliate marketing. I was making even more from my coaching and consulting at the time. And I just decided, I'm going to bring my work hours down to about 4 hours a day. And I'm just going to try to be a dad the rest of the day and a good husband. And so that's what I did for the next few months. My wife, who is not from the US, finally got a travel permission. So we went on a 6-week trip, really enjoyed our time in Europe and came back. And while we were in Europe, we're kind of like, you know what? I think we should move back to Utah. Forgot to mention that my wife was 6 months pregnant. We decided, we're going to get out of here and move to North Carolina. We lived in Charlotte. And while we liked it, we missed the mountains, we missed family. And especially when the baby came along, it was really tough to have just us two and the baby. As any parent knows, those first few months can be really tough. So we decided, you know what, let's go ahead and road trip back to Utah. And I think that's where we want to spend at least half of our year for the rest of our life. So let's find a good place to live. And again, I mentioned my wife's family's out of the country. They're in Europe. So we'll go there for 3 to 6 months out of the year. And then we'll be in Utah for the rest of the time when we're not traveling. And that brings us to present day. Now, why UtahPreneur? Why is this the next venture, Keaton? Why aren't you just doubling down on affiliate marketing and doing more of that? And the answer is being an entrepreneur is lonely, especially an online entrepreneur. You have people, but they're on Zoom. You only see them through a screen. You can have friends, but they're spread out all over. And spending time together with people in person is something that brings me a lot of happiness. And I really enjoy also small businesses and really getting down into the brass tacks of how did you grow this? Why did you grow it? And what advice do you have for the next generation of entrepreneurs or for someone who's in that maybe that moment of struggle right now that you were in, the do or die moment? And I want to find those in my own backyard here in Utah. So I'm really excited to sit down with people. We're going to do every single episode in person inside the business of the business owner we're interviewing. We're going to be in their headquarters. We're going to be really getting down to what makes these businesses tick. And I think it'll be really fun because hearing about, some massive company that you've never met the founder in person, you never will meet the founder in person. You can learn a lot of stuff from that. It's actually really exciting to hear stories of people who are just around the corner. And I think it's sad that we walk into these businesses every day. And if we're transplants in Utah, or maybe we just didn't grow up in that area, we don't know how this business got started, what their struggles were, and what they're doing to keep their doors open and thrive in today's economy. So I'm excited to bring on the hyper growth startups that had a unique idea, started in Utah, and Utah gave them the push that they needed to become a national brand, perhaps. All of those stories really excite me. And I'm just really, really excited to get to talk to all of them, even though I don't know who every single one of them is yet. And I think the logical conclusion for when this podcast grows and we build a community is throwing events, throwing meetups, and taking the vibrant community that we do have in Utah and just connecting it a bit more. Because again, it's lonely when you're not connected to other entrepreneurs, other people on the same life path. So that's going to be the brand of UtahPreneur. How can we bring Utah together? Now, before you click out of this episode, I'm not going to ask you to leave a review. I'm not going to ask you to share this episode because I don't think it's that good, but if you thought it was good, you can share it. But what I do want you to do is go listen to another episode. And if you think that one's good enough, and if you want to share that with somebody else, do it. If you don't think it is and you don't want a review, don't do it. Only do it if you feel like this podcast actually merits it. And that's going to force us to find the best guests, ask the best questions, and bring you the absolute best interviews in the world, or rather probably in the state. Thanks so much for tuning in. Can't wait to see where this journey takes all of us. If you have a business that you'd like to be submitted to be interviewed on UtahPreneur, please go to utahpreneur.co and submit the form there and we will review it. Hope to hear from you soon. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.